All right. Well, welcome everybody to the Nefesh podcast. This is episode 10, and this is a true privilege to have on and welcome my sister Paula. And we're going to be dialoguing and sharing regarding her unique history. And even though our family is a bit crazy, she's got a really crazy history and story. And so I'm excited to have her on. Thanks for being on, Paula.
Sure. Yeah, it's a privilege for me.
So this is going to sound weird, but the truth is I didn't know you existed until I was like 15. And I didn't even meet you until I think I was 21, maybe. And maybe not so crazy, today with everybody's blended families, but your story is really just so interesting. It's really powerful. And we've talked a lot about it, gone into detail about how you came into the family, found us, and all the different experiences that you've had. And I know I've told you before that you need to write a book because your story is just really cool. But take us back. You were adopted. You were adopted out of our family. My mom was going through a divorce with her first husband. And so you were the fifth, coming along behind four others. And the way she described it to me was she was working nights at the post office in Santa Ana, California. And she had four kids that were, kind of being watched during the day or would go to school. But there was no way as a single mom, she was going to be able to care for an infant. And so she, at that moment, just, felt like she needed to give you up for adoption and felt like that was the best option for you. So take us back all the way as far back as you want to go. Do you remember being born?
No, my memory is so poor. That is not even an option.
Well, so take us back to your early childhood. Did you always know that you were adopted?
Yes. I was always told from a young age that I was adopted. I don't remember like my parents sitting me down and saying that, but I just knew that. I don't know how they told me or when exactly, but I just grew up knowing that. My sister, I have a sister who my adopted parents had adopted 3 years prior. I knew she was adopted, and we had different birth parents, and we didn't, either of us, have any information about that. We just knew that we, were loved and everything, and that was all good. But we did always know that we were adopted, both of us.
So you knew a little bit about, and I know you'll get into this a little bit later, but you knew a little bit about your birth mom, right? That something that I think your parents tried to tell you a little bit. They didn't want you to know a whole lot, just for obvious reasons. They didn't want you to maybe go off and join this traveling circus of a family, maybe. But they told you just a little bit, like you had a little bit to go on. But was it always really a desire to eventually find your birth mom, or were you cool just kind of, I got great parents, I've got a great life, I'm just cool not knowing everything else?
I always had a desire to know where I came from, always. I'm not like one that can have an unknown. It's not comfortable for me to sit with that. And so I don't know that it had, initially anyway, that it had so much to do with, I'm desiring a parent, because I did have great parents.
Right.
But for me, this unknown was uncomfortable to sit with. And I needed to see, one of the things about being adopted is that I always call it like kind of a disconnectedness. Like my parents were both from obviously different families.
Right.
And then usually when children are born, they have this natural tendency to be somewhat like their parents. And my sister and I both were from two different sets of parents other than our parents.
Right.
And I just always felt that created this sense of disconnectedness. It's not a good word really, but just this feeling that we were four individuals making a family. And it just was kind of a way, I don't know, it was just a thought process that I had. My sister and I are very different personality wise, and also physically and in every way. And so it didn't ever feel to me like the families of my friends. I never felt like we had the same kind of family as everyone else.
Yeah.
So I always did have a desire, yes, to find her. And I didn't know, I really didn't know anything until I was a little bit older, but I did always have a desire. And when I would be upset with my parents, just as a child, and then this immature thought process, I would, be like, well, I have other parents, and you're not my only option, kind of thing, which wasn't exactly, true. I was so immature, I'd be like, yeah. So I'm sure that made my parents feel great, but I feel badly about that now, of course. But I would like hop on my bike and go ride around, and I can picture. I know, like, there was once. I don't know how old I was. I was maybe 8 is what I think. And I rode my bike over to a neighborhood it was not the traditional, it was an adjacent neighborhood, but not the one I would generally go to. And I rode over and I was riding around, and I remember it was in one of these little fits of peak that I had. And I remember riding around and seeing a lady taking groceries out of the back of her station wagon, and going in the house. And I was like, maybe that's her. Maybe, So it was just the dumbest thing. But I really I did always feel, for whatever reason, that she was close by.
Yeah.
I didn't have thoughts like that about a birth father for whatever reason. And maybe, I don't know, but I did about mom. I felt that she was close.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I didn't know more until I was older. And
we found out later that after we met you and were talking with you, that you actually lived just a few neighborhoods over from where we were.
Yeah. So I've always thought that as one of the most miraculous parts of my story is that when I was adopted, when mom put me up for adoption, she went to an attorney in Orange County where she was living. And she went to him because our aunt had also given up a child and had used that attorney. And so grandma told mom, go to Gordon Chitrus. He helped Aunt Lynn. And so she went to this attorney who was a friend of my parents.
Oh.
And but at the time they were living in LA County in Huntington Park.
Your parents were?
And so my adopted parents, Ed and Gloria, lived in Huntington Park, LA County at the time. So it was really kind of unique that they made this connection through Gordon being in different counties. I mean, at that time it was, I don't know, I just think it was a little bit like, now maybe that wouldn't be as big a thing, but back then I think it was interesting.
No, I think it was, I think it was miraculous too. I mean, it goes beyond the realm of coincidence, right? I mean,
Yes.
your parents, adoptive parents, lived in LA. They were friends of this adoption attorney whom our aunt had used for a different situation, and then mom uses it for you. But then this family, your parents, then move to Orange County, and
When I was 5. So they did it.
They did. Was it before?
So they adopted me. Yeah, they lived in Huntington Park when I was adopted, and we lived there till I was 5.
And then you moved out to Anaheim. And when did our mom and my dad, was it 76? I think they purchased the home there on Trevor. So I don't know how old you would have been at 76. You would have been already living there.
Yeah, we had lived there for 4 years. Yeah.
So when you were 9, essentially, they bought the house on Trevor Street in Anaheim, which was just a few blocks from where you lived, where you grew up.
Yes, literally blocks. So it's really all the same neighborhood. We lived in the condos on one side of a school, Rio Vista School.
Right.
And on the other side were the homes that also pertain to that elementary school. So, really all the same neighborhood.
And then was it you or your sister who then went to school with our brothers and sisters, went to high school with them, right? Was it you or your sister?
Yes, because Michelle, because my sister, because they were older, like Lisa was 7 when I was born. Okay. And so Michelle, my sister, remembers riding the bus to either middle school or it must have been high school to Valencia with Greg.
Wow.
With our brother Greg, our older brother Greg. But we all played at Rio Vista Park. Right. We all shopped at the Alpha Beta. It really was a neighborhood, like a bigger neighborhood. And my best friend from the time I was 12 probably lived about, I haven't counted. I've been over there lots of times, but it's 4 or 5 houses.
That's right.
From your
house.
Us.
That's right.
Yeah, literally 4 or 5 houses away. And I spent from the age of 12 to 18 a lot of yes. I mean, I probably stayed there more than I stayed at my house.
And I mean, that's just, I don't know. That's just, again, it's beyond a coincidence. It's so cool how close you were to us. And at that point, really not ready to meet, and we wouldn't have been ready to meet you, and you would have run away and never tried to find us again at that point.
I would have been afraid.
But how much, I mean, you were in our lives even before we realized it. It's so powerful. So growing up, you knew that you were adopted, and I mean, it sounds like you really had a really good experience, and for that I'm really thankful that you really did have an opportunity to grow up in a good, stable environment. And unfortunately, your mom passed at a young age. How old were you when your adopted mother passed away?
I was 22. Okay. 21, 22. And she was 52. Okay. So she was young. Yeah.
What was
and
that? What was that like?
That was hard. I was actually out of the country when that happened. When I was finishing high school, they had found breast cancer, and they took her breasts and they took the lymph nodes and they, did all that they could. And at the time, they said, at the time, what they would tell women, and I think this was pretty common, was that, there's like a 5-year window and it could come back, but if it doesn't within 5 years, you're probably good. And so about 4 years after that, or 3.5 or so, I left to serve a mission for our church in Chile, and I was to be gone for 1.5 years. And so when I had been gone 1 year, it came back.
Mm.
And actually not quite a year, and it came back. And so she passed, and I really never even saw her sick.
Wow.
But she passed. It all happened pretty quickly, fairly quickly, and so it was hard and strange. I mean, the hardest part was I didn't come home. Her desire was that I stay and serve the Lord and keep doing what I was doing. And there wasn't anything I could have done really back home.
Right.
And so I did that, but I had another 6 months. And so even though she wasn't writing to me anymore, it still never felt real until I got home. And then she wasn't there. And then when you haven't seen somebody sick, you haven't seen the decline, it's just, you still expect to see them and have them in your life. And so it was really different coming home. And one of my good friends had passed while I was gone as well. So it was just a weird, hard time right when I got home. But then I did have a solid, my faith was strong, and I had a solid upbringing. And so I was able to move through all those things. But
So a little after that, you met your husband, got married, and then moved to was it Colorado first or Utah?
We moved to Utah first, and we lived there just almost 5 years before so during that time we wanted to have children, and we tried to have children. Tried a couple of things. There wasn't quite the advancements that there are now, and also things were very expensive, and we were young married. So we tried a few things, and it wasn't working. So we decided to adopt, which for me was, no big deal. I'm like, that worked out for me. So, so we got on a list with an agency and got going with that. And it was kind of an interesting process because, the birth mothers see these, like your portfolio basically, and then they choose, who to place their child with. And we were with that agency for about 1.5 years, and we didn't, get selected. And it was feeling a little, it was hard. Like, we didn't keep baby stuff in the house. It was just, hard. So, but we had seen my uncle, who's an attorney in Utah. We had seen him at a family reunion, and we had talked to him, and he had said, well, I'll look for a baby for you. And we thought, well, thanks. Great. Amazing.
Easy?
But we really, but we really didn't know like how serious to take that, or, I didn't know his full background in, he had managed or helped with a lot of adoptions, which I hadn't known, I don't know. I just hadn't really known. So anyway, then we went along, and one morning he called and said, I have this little boy.
Oh my God.
Do you want him?
Wow.
And it was just the craziest fall out of the sky kind of blessing.
Yeah.
And that was a Tuesday morning, I believe. And so my husband wasn't home. He was actually like downtown Salt Lake doing some research for something, and he was in a county building, and my uncle needed to know right away. And so I called this county building, and I'm like, have you seen a guy? He's got, he's this tall, he's got glasses, brown hair, describing Bruce. And actually finally somebody, we've seen, we know her. So they got him a message. And then I was afraid, I can't remember what I told them, but I was afraid to say too much, because then I don't want him to like get an accident. I'm picturing all these horrible things. Now he's going to get an accident. Oh, you know, just all these crazy things that you think. But
right.
anyway, so he got home. We talked about it. And we had to borrow some money from my aunt, and we made it happen. So we picked my uncle and my cousin's wife went and picked up Ethan from the hospital and brought him over to my uncle's house on Friday of that week. And so we went and picked him up at his home.
A newborn? So, just
a newborn, just right. He was just born that week, and he had just been born when my uncle called me.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we got him as an infant. We had to do a lot of the legwork like that you do with an agency is not transferable to a private adoption. So we had to do, the scariest thing for us is that now we had this baby, we're falling in love with him. Yeah. And we had to do a home study after the fact.
Which means...
And so they could have, they had to check us out and make sure that we were suitable parents, and the state.
And normally do that beforehand. But
it's all done. Yeah.
Wow.
So we had to do that after the fact. And so Bruce was he had a plan. He had a plan to go to Switzerland. And he was like, we'll get there. It'll be fun. You know, like just in case they
take away the baby. If they were going to take him away, you were just going to flee.
We'll live our lives in Switzerland. It'll be fine. So so that was kind of funny, but it all worked out. And then we very soon after adopting Ethan, he was 6 months old, we moved to Colorado, to Durango. And it was while we were there that we started to have a little bit more disposable income. And I remember we got a tax return. And I said, I'd really like to use this money to hire someone to find my birth mother.
Wow.
And so sorry, that chokes me up a little bit. So anyway, Bruce was fine with that, of course. And so I did that. I found the letter from her that I wrote, that I sent to the investigator last night. Can't remember how I found her name, but she was in California, and I sent her a check for $350, and I told her what I knew, which wasn't much. I knew the hospital I was born in. Of course, I knew the date, and that was all I knew.
Really?
The name that I was given, of course.
You didn't know her name?
That's it.
You didn't know mom's name or anything?
No. My dad, so after my mom had passed, I did ask my dad more questions about mom, and he tried to remember her last name, and he remembered that it was McDonald. I don't, I've learned as I get older that our memories are just so fallible.
Sure.
And actually it kind of, to me, like her last name was Leonard, or actually at the time it was Gregory.
But her maiden name was Mickens, and so Mickens could be close.
That's true. Yeah, because on the paperwork it does in one place say baby Mickens.
Oh, it does?
Yeah. Oh. So maybe that actually makes more sense, but I hadn't ever put that together.
That maybe
so after he had told me that, I spent countless days, this is gonna show how old we are, but opening up the phone book to the McDonald's and calling.
It's probably a ton, right?
So many.
Did you just flat out call them and say hi? Did you?
Oh yeah.
Did you give up a baby for adoption?
Yes, I did. There's probably still a lot of women who are traumatized to this day, but I did. If a woman answered, I just flat out asked.
Wow. Oh, I love that.
So obviously I got nowhere, but but it was,
I'm
yeah,
surprised
what I
not
tried.
one of those people said, yeah, way back in like wherever. You could have found a whole different family, maybe a rich family, maybe.
Yeah, maybe so. Dang it. So yeah, that was interesting. But so I hired this woman, and so she, I mean, I don't remember exactly. Like, I know I sent that like on June 24th of 1999,
Wow.
and Bruce and I and Ethan had actually been in California just before that for my dad's retirement. And we had had a summer vacation, and then we had gone back to Colorado. And then I did that. And it was within like a couple of days.
Wow.
That she called me and she said, I've got your information.
That's incredible.
And it was incredible. I still have the piece of paper
Wow.
where I made all my notes while I was talking to her, scribbling everybody's names and all the dates, because she had an insane amount of information.
That's really scary. Back in 99, before the internet is developed.
I know.
Like probably all of our names,
She
all
had
of our
mom's
ages.
Mm-hmm. She knew that, like, for example, she had mom's full name, her married name, and her social security number.
Oh my gosh.
And she had, Dawn's information, who mom had since married. After she gave me up for adoption, she did really struggle rearing those 4 kids for like another 6 years.
Right.
Or no, it wasn't that long, maybe 5, because she married your dad 72. In 72.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And so she was struggling. That was hard times.
Right.
And so anyway, had your dad's information, had the kids' names. Like, I remember specifically, she knew that like the oldest wasn't born in California because she couldn't find a record for Lisa.
Wow.
But she knew there was a child. Like, all these, she had so much. And I was like so overwhelmed. I just remember like just this super overwhelming feeling, like, wow, this is so strange. Yeah. And also she had the last known address, which was around the corner from my best friend.
Did you, when you found that out, so that would have been the house on Trevor Street, when you found that out, did it click right away?
It took a very short amount of time. I believe it clicked that night. I remember talking to Bruce and going, this address looks familiar to me. At the time we didn't have the smartphone that I could whip out and Google it, but it looked very familiar. It was in Anaheim. It had the same zip code.
Right.
And so it only took, a short time, and it clicked. And I was like, this just can't be. This is just so bizarre, so out there. So yeah, it was crazy. It was very overwhelming. All the names were overwhelming. And I just thought, I can't really remember all the, but some of the thoughts I had were just, they don't need another kid in that family. They're good. And then I wondered and I worried if, there would be resentment, if there would be what everybody knew, just so many things that you think about and worry about and don't have any idea what to expect. And I've had just an amazing experience in the positive. And I think so many adoptees are not fortunate in that way. And my heart just goes out to them. Yeah. So anyway, so I had the information, and then I had she had a phone number. and she had that address. So I didn't know at the time, but you guys didn't live at that address anymore, but the phone number was still good. But the woman who helped me, she suggested to me, and she had done a lot of these types of things, and so I followed her advice. She suggested that I write a note to mom, and not like come out and say, "Hey, I'm your long lost daughter," but just say, "This is my name, and I would love to talk to you about this personal matter. Could you call me Collect?" Which again, that's dating me, but
that's so old school.
Nobody even knows what I'm talking about.
I
That's fine.
But basically, she wouldn't have to pay long distance, which also doesn't really exist anymore, but pay long distance fees to call you, because she could call Collect and it would be charged to you. That's so interesting.
Yes,
But not even to say what it was about. Wow.
Yeah, because the investigator really, she said, you just need to be as sensitive as possible, because you don't know what anybody else in her life knows.
Right.
And you certainly don't want her to feel exposed or
Sure.
uncomfortable, or and I didn't want that. And so I sent her this note, and then I knew about how long the mail should have taken, and I just watched the phone and the calendar, and day after day, and it went about 2 weeks.
Really?
And I couldn't take it another minute. I was just needing to know. And since I had that phone number, so I remember taking the phone out. We had a portable phone.
People listening can't see it, but your face got all mischievous. You got a portable phone. Which at the time was also new, right? Because it's usually at that time it's like a cord, a cord stuck to a wall phone, right?
Right. Yeah, this had no cord. So I remember just not wanting anybody even near me. I just wanted to just do this thing. And so I remember taking a chair out to the back patio, and sitting there and making the call, calling her. And so the phone rang a couple of times, and a woman answered. And I said, "Is this, I think I just said, is this Sandra Leonard?" And she said, "Yes, it is." And I said, "Well, I sent you a note a couple of weeks ago. I said, my name is Paula. And I didn't finish the sentence." And she just, she just started saying, sorry, I couldn't even say it. It really was it was just such a moment, but she just started saying, "Praise God, praise God, praise God." I don't know how many times. And she said, she just said, "Oh, it just clicked," because she knew my name was Paula. When I was 6 months old, she had gone. So we didn't say that actually, but so at the time she gave me up, she did not have to sign the papers right away. She waited till I was 6 months old, and she met my parents at the attorney's office. And my parents told me,
she wanted to make sure that you were okay, and that your parents,
that I was well cared for.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so they met her there, and they told me that was the scariest day of their life, which I could totally imagine later, needing to possibly move to Switzerland for Ethan. So this all made sense. So anyway, she just was so excited and sweet. And then Mom, she goes, "Hang on, I've got your sister on the line." It was back in the days of call waiting again. So so she had,
Was it
I
Lisa?
can't remember who. I think it was Lisa. I think so. Was on the other line. That's our oldest sister. So she was on the line, and then also Christina, she said, was coming down the stairs. And so it was just like all this. I'm just sitting there outside in Colorado, picturing all these things, and I'm like, and then she clicks over to Lisa. She goes, hang on, clicks over, and so my mind is just going, what is she telling them? What is, what do they know? What is she saying? Is she coming clean, or is she, I just have no idea what is going on. And so, and I wish I had like written down all those crazy things, but I just have these pockets of memory. It's been a long time now. It's been 23 years.
Right.
But I do remember those things. And then she came back and kind of explained who Lisa and Christina were, which I had my little list. And so I was like, okay, all right. And so we just talked for quite a long time.
Wow.
And I took my notes, and then later that summer, Ethan and I came back out to California to meet her, and got to meet.
Was it in 99? I thought it was like 2001.
Yeah, no, it was, I mapped it all out last night because so it was, I've never done that before, but it was 99. And this is how I know. So, because who I met that day was Mom and her then husband, Don, your dad. I met you and Christina.
Okay.
And I met Philip and Michaelina.
Uh-huh.
And Ecclesia was just little. I think barely walking.
Right.
Yeah. And Donnie Ann and James came, and they came, I was already there, I think, when they got there. And Donnie Ann was just pregnant with JJ.
Okay.
Yep. Wow. And so I have the text from JJ's 22nd birthday. I'm going back, so I figured that all out. So I had to map it all out, but so it was just that summer.
Wow.
So I flew out with just Ethan. It was expensive in that time period to fly. Durango was pretty remote. I remember we had to go through Denver, and with all the baby stuff, it was kind of a nightmare because he was really young.
Yeah.
But we came, and you were living in that apartment in Costa Mesa. Was it Costa Mesa?
Santa Ana.
Santa Ana.
Yep.
And so we came. My sister Michelle came with me that time.
That's right. Yes.
And I also remembered last night that I was like, was Ethan there? Was he not there? But I remembered that Michaelina, who is so sweet and kind, and this is just like her now that I know her better, to have done. And she was like, let me take Ethan outside. And so she took Ethan and Ecclesia out to play while the grown-ups could talk a bit. And so that was, my first meeting. And then I didn't see any of you again for several years. So I came back out in 2002. Okay. Because my dad had flown up for Bruce's college graduation. That morning, Ethan was not feeling great. And there was like a morning and an afternoon kind of two ceremonies. And so I said to Bruce, you and Dad go to the morning and then come back and get us, and I'll, pump him up with medication or whatever. And we'll all go to the, when I think it was the walking part. I can't remember.
Probably like a baccalaureate ceremony, and then maybe the graduation ceremony later
Exactly.
on. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so they went up to Salt Lake. We lived in North Ogden, about 45 minutes north of Salt Lake. They drove down to Salt Lake for that morning ceremony, went to it. And before they could get back to the freeway in Salt Lake, my dad had a heart attack
Oh
in the
my
car with
gosh.
Bruce. And for all intents and purposes, died.
Oh my gosh.
Bruce got him up to the hospital and they brought him back.
Wow.
It was
I don't think I knew that.
crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was really such a blessing that Ethan and I hadn't been with, like, it was just, the Lord just
Yeah.
orchestrated that.
Yeah.
And so, so from that time, we had my dad in Utah. He didn't live with us, but we had him in, an assisted living and whatnot,
Okay.
after he recovered.
Okay.
And so once that was decided, which was a little later into the summer, I went down and my sister and I cleaned out his condo.
Okay. Okay.
And that was stressful. They had lived in that condo since 1972.
Wow.
And it was, had a lot of stuff and a lot of memories. And
Right.
so I contacted Mom and you guys were actually going to come over. And I can't remember what happened, but it was also just this really, in my mind, it was a really chaotic feeling.
Sure.
Doing that, cleaning out. It was hard.
Sure.
And so anyway, I didn't get to see you all that trip. So I don't think I saw you all again until the summer of 2008.
Well, no, it was Dad's funeral, my dad's funeral.
Oh, right. Okay, so Bruce
2000.
moved down. Oh, yeah, so that's when it was, right.
Okay. Okay.
So we went back to Utah. That's right. So went back to Utah, took care of my dad. He was only with us another year and a few months.
Wow.
And had a stroke and passed. And then there was just things, Ethan was young and
Sure.
whatever, just so many crazy things. And so I hadn't made it back. I hadn't come back to California at all. And then I got a call from Mom. And she said, I know, you can just hear her saying this. I know that it might be a little awkward, but she told me that Dawn had passed, and obviously I was offering my condolences and this and that. And we talked for just a minute, and then she said, I know it might be a little bit awkward, but everyone's going to be here for the funeral. And I hadn't met Lisa or Sharon or Greg or Aaron. I hadn't met
Kevin,
Daniel. Or Kevin.
Right.
And spouses. I hadn't met any nieces and nephews.
Right.
So there were a lot of people I didn't know yet. This is a big family. So I guess we should say that too. So we said that Mom had 4 kids and then me. Right. And then in 1972, she met and married Don. He brought Kevin into the marriage, who was also, interestingly enough, adopted
by
Don and his first wife.
Right.
And then they proceeded to have 5 more kids. So our mom bore 10 children, but there are 11.
Yes.
Yeah.
Insane.
It's a big family. So yeah. And here I am just having grown up with Michelle. So it was a lot to take in.
So when she told you that, what were you thinking, like, was it overwhelming at all to think that you were going to see everybody?
It was so overwhelming. And I really felt very sick to my stomach and unsure and uncomfortable and 10 other things. And I just, I felt, you know, having gone through my parents' funerals already, or having lost my mom and, you know, my dad, I was just really uncomfortable with coming in and possibly being this focal point at your dad's funeral.
Wow.
Like, I just did not really want that.
Yeah.
And I think I expressed some of that to Mom, but maybe not too much, because I didn't know her that well yet. You know, like, it wasn't like, I don't know, it was just, you know, still very new.
Right.
And so but I do recall that she assured me that she had asked the kids, and they wanted me to come. And so I spent the next couple, I made arrangements to come. I spent the next couple of days like making a song about everybody's names so I would remember them in my head. Yes. So okay, because I thought that would be the worst possible thing. Here, hello, I'm at your dad's funeral. I can't remember your name, who you are. Yeah. So really just such a funny thing. But yeah, there was a lot of you. So so I remember getting ready, and you know, got the plane ticket and flew down, went to my best friend Tracy's house to stay over. And this was probably it was the day before and the funeral. And so we got talking, you know, and what are you going to wear? You know, I said, I don't know. What do you think? You know, come and look at my suitcase. So we opened my suitcase, and I had a box with a pair of shoes in it, a bra. I think I had a slip, and I think I had a brush. It was like, that was all I brought. Like, I was mentally seriously in distress. I mean, I think I had like, because if you've ever seen me pack for a trip, that is like the extreme opposite.
You pack everything. Like, you're good. You know what you need. You've got a 1,000 different things. You pack everything.
I have a comprehensive.
And I can picture this suitcase, just random stuff.
Disarray, random stuff. Yeah.
Maybe a bathing suit or like a parka or.
It was the strangest thing, and I was just like, what did I not like? What?
Wow.
What was I thinking? But I just wasn't. I was just so. I think the mental stress really. I mean, obviously, it got into me. It was so strange.
Wow.
And so I remember we went shopping. We went to that mall in Santa Ana.
Oh, Main Place or South Coast?
We went to Main Place. It was Main Place, but it wasn't Main Place yet. But it's what became Main Place. And we went there, and I remember being in the Broadway store until they were literally kicking us out. And I was trying on every possible thing. And no, they'll think I'm too this. They'll think that makes me look fat. They'll think they have a chunky sister, which, you know, anyway.
No.
You know, I just like had to be the very perfect thing. And now I look at the pictures and go, how did I end up with that? But anyway, it was fine. So,
I thought it looked good.
that was a crazy night. I remember just, anyway, so the next day, Tracy came with me to the funeral. And I remember we came in and sat down in the church. And I was just trying to be inconspicuous. I was, you know, wanting to shrink, you know, just nobody look at me, just look, you know. And then Lisa came in, and she came in like the opposite side from where it was seated, like the opposite aisle. And you have to kind of imagine like well, first of all, she was 7 and, she had seen mom pregnant, and she and Sharon were so excited to be able to like play with the baby and dress up the baby and all these things. And then she came home without me. And so, she just had it was hard for her. Yeah. And so now here, all these years later, she was really excited.
Did she?
And so she came in. She came, I think probably, I'm pretty sure mom pointed me out, but anyway, she came in and I saw me and walked fast, all the way around to where I was sitting. And she said, "You look just like Lisa Loeb." Do you remember who? She's a singer?
That's right.
Yeah. And I was like, "Thank you." And, and we hugged. I'll never forget that about that day. She was just so sweetly, emotionally excited to meet me. And it just felt so warm and welcoming and just great. And so we got through that day. We took the pictures, all the family pictures with me in them. And I'm so thankful I have those pictures now. They're so valuable to me.
The only time,
because that's the only picture I have with together. All of us. Yeah, that's the only one. Yeah. So, because we've since lost 2 siblings.
Right.
So, yeah. So it was good. It was, it was what it was. I remember getting out of the car at the cemetery and everybody kind of starting to walk over to the plot. And I remember Greg was walking ahead of me, and I remember saying, "Hey, come and hug me. I'm your sister." And Greg's a little bit quiet, You
were saying that to him?
He's like, "Okay."
You were saying that to him?
Yeah. I said, "Hey, come over and hug me. I'm your sister." So he did. And he's a great hugger to this day. He's a great hugger. But yeah, it's just little glimpses of things that I remember from that day. I remember talking to you in the line inside the, I guess it was the kind of the building at the cemetery, where there was little reception. I remember what you were wearing.
Wow.
So I don't really, there's just a few things that I remember very clearly. That's one of them. But so that's when I met the whole family, and then the one of the great things is that then a couple years later we moved from Utah to California,
right?
And with both of my adoptive parents being gone, it was such a blessing to us to have you all there, right. And we were able to really get to know everybody by spending holidays and,
right.
Special occasions together, and just, inviting each other to be part of each other's lives. And
right.
That was just such a blessing to us, to me, to Bruce, and to Ethan, who he has cousins. My sister has 2 boys, so he had a couple of cousins, but, now he's got,
thousands.
Count. I don't know how many. Got so many. So, so yeah, it was neat. It was neat.
Well, stay tuned for the exciting conclusion of Paula's amazing story as she shares about finding her birth father, finding additional siblings she didn't know that she had, and bringing the story just full circle, and God using her to minister to others in this, her own journey, her own soul story. And so make sure to join us next time. Thanks for being part of this episode 10, part 1. We will have you and talk to you next time.